10 restaurants in one day. Business podcast, rather.
It's both.
Weirdly, our first date was in Iceland.
Secretly, I think everybody wants to know, how much do you earn right now per month?
Trying to buy a new house. And so I'm going to be incredibly poor in about a month's time. So all of my guilty pleasures have stopped.
That's true, but what if you would need to start everything from zero? What would you
I'm sure I
try?
will at some point.
Was it worth it, Chris?
I love what I do. At the same time, I would not wish on my worst enemies.
Or imagine the woman who is traveling, spending, and shopping. I don't know, but she's incredibly stunning and beautiful.
But maybe that's why I'm still single. It's crazy. There was a stat the other day that in the Times that 43% of 18 to 34-year-olds no longer drink.
Today's guest is Chris Miller. In a past financial principal of Ernst & Young and other capital institutions, closing 800 million deals. A former commercial director at Soho House, the founder of hospitality incubator White Rabbit, with more than 66 global restaurants around the globe. And now the mind behind our community, a new generation wellness club. He is someone who has incredible discipline, deepness, and impact. Today, we will talk not only about the business, but what is behind the curtains.
Tough questions?
Tough question, we're gonna see. Are you ready for all of that?
I don't know, it's still early in the morning, isn't it?
Guys, let us know when everything is ready. Okay, cool. Chris, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm very good.
Did you take a shower this morning?
A shower? I did, yes.
Was it?
An interesting opener.
Yeah, was it a cold shower or was it a contrast bath?
No, it was a warm shower, but I was at ARC last night, so we had an ARC After Dark party with Barry's Boot Camp, a nice partnership one. So I did my ice baths last night.
Nice, and you partied a little bit, right? Because like usually during the weekends you have the DJ there and everything, so you combine both relaxation and communication, yeah, with your community, with your people.
Exactly. It was so specifically last night there was a Barry's Boot Camp class, and then for the after recovery everyone went to ARC, which is next door, and. Yeah, there was a DJ in the space, some live music, and contrast therapy. So a big party in a sauna.
Nice. So today you are relaxing.
Today I'm relaxing, a little bit of work later. It never stops.
Very interesting. We're going to talk about it later as well. But what I would want to start with, from previous story about how we met, I would say that we met with you maybe 2-3 years ago on social app, and we couldn't meet for a very long time because London is such a busy place and people always in their own dynamics. But then after a while you wrote me, let's finally meet, I have something to tell you about. We met with you and you told me about this amazing ARC concept, the new wellness space, yeah, where you create a community, where you have the biggest sauna in London. And I remember I told you it's going to be the next amazing thing that you invited me as well to play as a DJ at your opening party.
The launch party, it was great.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I want to know, how did the idea of ARC came to you?
Well, I've been in the hospitality world for about 15 years. I was commercial director for the Soho House group, so I worked on rolling out clubs and restaurants around the world with them. Then off the back of that, I launched my own business called White Rabbit Projects, which was a hospitality incubator, so I invest in and create restaurants and bars and have built 66 restaurants and now this, but for the last 15 years it's been hospitality. And I was on a food tour in New York, and when I do food tours I do pretty intense tasting sessions. So my biggest one was 10 restaurants in one day.
10 restaurants in one day?
Yeah, it's after about 5 it really does feel like work.
Okay.
And someone said, just go and try this, try a place called Remedy Place, which is this quite sort of luxury, high-end spa. And I did my first ever ice bath, which was 6 minutes long, and they give you mitts for your hands and for your feet, so you don't end up with sort of pains. And it was miserable. Like 6 minutes is not.
It's a lot.
Yeah. You've done 2, right?
I've done 2.
Yeah.
For the first time at ARC, and I was like, oh my God, the first time I thought I wouldn't resist to keep there for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But every time it becomes easier.
It does become easier. But 6 minutes was tough, but I came out the other side and I felt incredible. And from there, I then went on to a place called Bath House. And Bath House is this much larger facility, almost like you would imagine Roman baths, but with a kind of cool New York twist. So they have multiple cold plunges and hot pools and a few different saunas and steam rooms. And I walked in and there were friends hanging out, there were people on dates, like it was this real social experience that I'd not seen because spas are typically quiet and, you know. And it felt to me more like a bar or a restaurant, which is the world that I'm in. So I just got really interested in this new way of socializing, and I traveled around a bit and saw some different concepts. And there's a place in Toronto which does it with sort of taking Aufguss ceremonies with ice balls and teachings. And you know, London didn't have this. And I'm in a lucky position where I have this incubator, and you know, I know the landlords, I have teams to build and develop these. And so, yeah, I decided to build one. I opened the first one in Canary Wharf, and yes, now we own the largest sauna in the UK with a 65-person sauna, 8 ice baths, and then a big communal space.
Yeah, you're the first ones who've done it in London, and it's incredible space.
Thank you.
I love it. But let's coming back to the question how we met, because you know, in London it's so hard to meet with the same-minded people and interact with them, especially in London. So how do you find it professionally and as a single man?
Well, a direct question.
Why not?
Well, why not indeed? I think I don't have the normal lifestyle, the normal job. I don't work 9 to 5. The joys of running your own business and absolutely loving what you do means sort of work and pleasure cross over quite a lot. Yeah, I think I meet people naturally through work, but my personal life, it's harder to spend too much time. You know, I don't think I've ever been to a brunch. I was talking to someone about that the other day, because on a Saturday, I want to be creating things, and I want to be, you know, I use that time
You want to be always in focus, and you want to be always in work. However, you sacrifice yourself for some pleasure things, right? Like maybe, personal life or meeting with friends or something like that. Do I understand correct?
Yeah, for sure. I think when you start anything from scratch, to really make it or turn it into something, you do have to obsess over it.
Yeah.
And my business is, it's made up of multiple startups. We're an incubator, and we create things at that scrappy early stage. And so, you know, to drag something into existence requires that constant thought and obsession on it.
Yes, but still, how do you meet right now people, right?
Both. Look, wow, getting into the singer. Yeah. No, do you know what's been really interesting? I think the days where you used to be able to meet someone in a bar or a restaurant, having been in hospitality 15 years, it almost feels quite strange to walk up to someone and meet them in a bar.
Yeah.
When you go into ARC,
Yeah.
you might have 40 people all feeling slightly sort of vulnerable and peculiar because you're in Canary Wharf and then suddenly everyone's in their swimwear with a load of strangers in a room. But after that first ice bath, everyone is chatting to each other. Like there's something about the vulnerability or the shared experience. Sorry.
Yeah, endorphins goes up.
Exactly.
Everybody open. Everybody had amazing time during 45-minute session. So you create this atmosphere, right?
And also, I think someone who's going to experience that is a bit more open-minded to chat to people. There's sort of community of kind of friendly, interesting people. So I think that's been quite an interesting experience of being able to chat to people. But everyone now meets online as well, so I think that's part of it.
Okay, so do you use right now any social apps or dating apps? And what are your approaches, you know, to the woman? How do you communicate with them?
I think. I thought it was a business podcast rather than...
It's both. We're going to talk about business a lot.
Okay.
But I want to know you not just in terms of the business, but you as a real man, human, and soul. So...
So it's I think on yes on the apps, but
do you have any maybe rules for chatting or something, you know, like your special way?
It's interesting. I don't see. I'm not sort of, shall I say, searching for the one in sense of. I've met amazing people via social apps. I've ended up in long-term relationships with someone that I met on Instagram.
Okay.
And weirdly, our first date was in Iceland because it was during COVID, and it was the only place on the green list, or it was that or.
Was it spontaneous?
Like, no, we chatted over video chat for a while, and we clearly got on very well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the only place we could go and meet was Iceland, which was an amazing journey, and we ended up dating for a couple of years. So,
do I understand correct that you never seen the person, and you proposed to meet for the first time with her offline in Iceland?
Yeah.
Wow, it's quite spontaneous.
Well, we had video chats.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite important for me is trying to work out, do you have a connection with someone? And I do think something like a video chat or time is precious, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many, you want to spend time with friends and family, and then when you have an intense work life, sort of, I guess, giving away an evening to someone, and then you realize within the first 5-10 minutes that actually there's no spark or connection. It's sort of, that was a...
But that's a very good point. How do you understand when you are in love? Like, how did you get it that, okay, we met on Instagram, we went to Iceland for the first date, then you understand, okay, I'm in love, I want to continue a relationship with this person. How did you feel this inside of you, how?
I think I probably knew before I got there that there was this special connection. And God, for want of better words, it's ultimately it's vibe based. It's purely.
Yeah.
Do you play off each other? Do you have? Is there this natural excitement to see someone and speak to them?
Mm-hmm. I see. That's deep, but I have to ask, what was the craziest date you ever had?
The craziest date. What, flying to Iceland is not, that doesn't count as, I mean,
well, it can count, but maybe you have something else you remember.
No, I mean, I've had dates where you turn up and you immediately don't get on. I think there's values, right, that you align with. I did have one. I'm not sure this is a story to tell, but here we are. I love comedy, and I've travelled around the world to see comedians. And
what is your favorite one?
Probably Stuart Lee. He's utterly brilliant.
I'll check on him.
But yeah, I'd gone to a theatre show, and we'd only. It's because I had the tickets, and it was someone who I'd sent. I think we'd had 2 or 3 messages backwards and forwards, and we ended up going to. I just said, I've got these tickets. Terrible first date to go to a theatre, or to, because you don't actually get to chat to someone. Mm-hmm. But I had these spare tickets, and I just said, let's go, and we met and we sat in the theatre. We probably shared 2 or 3 sentences before we got in there as we ordered a drink. And lights went down, and immediately she took out her phone, and she just sat there on Instagram and messaging friends, and it was it was sort of shared value. I got halfway through, we got to the interval, and I just said, I'm really sorry. It's clear you're not enjoying this, so I'm gonna go. Is that terrible of me?
No, it's quite brave, and I've done it on my own a couple of times, because you're completely right. If you meet somebody and from the first sight or from the first conversation you understand there is no way to continue, it's better to save the time for this person and your own time.
Yeah.
So that was brave, but I think that's fair.
It became slightly problematic because the next day I got a message saying, the internet wants to know your name.
Are you kidding me?
And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And it turned out she was quite a big TikTok person who had put up a reel saying some guy had walked out on a date. She was very positive about the date, but and there was then 1.2 million views and a whole load of people saying, oh, he's not worth it, you're better than this.
Are you kidding me?
He didn't quite explain that it was all about the facts that,
that you wasn't yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so.
Do you still have this video?
No. I cut ties. We went our separate ways, and she got some views out of it, so. All is fine, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, that's the problem of social media, because sometimes I believe that in TikTok, in Instagram, people just posting some stuff which is not relevant and forgetting about the real life, you know? You have to be present and, mean a value and impact in everything what you do. This is what I personally believe in. And this is what I also want to ask you. You mentioned, and I know that you've been a financial principal in Ernst & Young. Mm-hmm. You made a deals for 800 million pounds, right? Then you became the commercial director in Soho House. Then you created your incubator White Rabbit in hospitality with more than 66 restaurants around the globe. Now you're in wellness. So what made you...
I need a day off.
You definitely need to, but I want to know how and when did you understand you don't want to play anymore the financial corporate, let's say, rules, and you want to start your own story, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think always as a kid, I always wanted to start my own project. And even at school, my first ever business, actually, I didn't realize until later that it was actually piracy and illegal, but I borrowed some money off my parents to buy a CD rewriter. This is when you could record onto CDs.
I still remember those as well.
Yeah, and I went to HMV and I bought the most popular album at the time, and I then wrote a load of CDs and sold them for cheaper at school.
Which one it was? Which
I
group
think it
or?
was, guys, dating me now, I think it was Nirvana Nevermind, something like that.
No, never mind. Okay.
And yeah, so that was my first one. And then I always had these little side hustles to try and make money. And I went into I was a full-time musician for a couple of years. That was my obsession and love. I had a bright red stripe through the center of my hair, and we got to tour around for a while. So the kind of creativity and
You had a tour around UK.
yeah.
So you were quite big. Like, I mean, if you had a...
We were a school band that got lucky, and we had a...
What was the name of it?
We were called Frayed. It doesn't exist online anymore, because
Okay.
this was even around it was sort of around the time MySpace was.
Was you a frontman or the...
I was a singer and a guitarist in it.
Okay, so you was always the frontman. Always leading the business, the musician band.
Yeah, I mean that was, but actually I learned a lot about kind of management skills and the drive to get stuff done through that. You have to create your own luck in it. So it was hugely valuable to what I ended up doing. But anyway, so when we ended up getting dropped by the record company or the management company, and so I had to go to university, and I thought, if I'm not going to be a rock star, I'll try and make some money. And I was always interested in finance.
Yeah.
And, even before my first this is really geeky and sad of me, but before my first business studies GCSE class, I'd read the entire textbook, because I was just fascinated by how you create businesses.
So you always had this spirit of entrepreneur in you, basically?
Yeah, building stuff.
Yeah, creating and building.
That was the exciting part, of creating and building.
Okay.
And even when I started at EY, learning about how I'm pretty terrible at maths. I'm dyslexic, and so I had to work a lot harder than others to actually work out how to do a lot of this stuff. But I always found it fascinating. And actually, I ended up in something called corporate restructuring for a while, which is basically when business is going bankrupt.
Yeah.
You take them over and you try and retain a bit of value and create it and see what you can build. But I was on a rotation. I was like, everyone wanted to go into mergers and acquisitions and the sexier side of it. And I sort of ended up in that, because when everything's going well and growing, it's really easy to
keep it up.
To keep going, exactly. And it's really hard to turn something around.
I understand, but I would want to know, Chris, when did you understand you don't want to work in financial world anymore? And was it worth it, right? Because moving from financial world, which seems always, almost always, stable, giving you financial freedom, a lot of people keep working there because it's just stable. But you don't always feel yourself happy there, and you're afraid to step out and start to create something new, right? Because you're afraid to lose it. So how was it for you? Was it worth it that you switched to hospitality, to wellness?
The real answer was, when I was in finance, there was no one above me I wanted to be. So you had these very senior partners who I kind of felt were miserable in their jobs, still working crazy hours. And also, I'm not sure I entirely believed in what we were doing in the PE world. You sort of say to founders, we'll invest in you and we'll help you grow around the world.
Yeah.
And the reality of what you would do is you would build a financial model with a hockey stick projection.
Yeah.
And then you'd go into a board meeting once a month and shout at the founders for not hitting that growth plan. And you'd never actually run a business. And so I got involved in the sale of Soho House. And I got to know the founder through that process and got invited to come in-house. But I really wanted to just understand what is the nuts and bolts of really growing a business, rather than just sort of investing and going, let's try and hit that hockey stick that we've drawn.
That was my question. So you was driven by the power, by your own ambitions, and by the vision of creating something impactful, right?
Well, when I went to Soho House, I just wanted to learn. I never thought I'd end up doing what I do today, for sure. This was never on the list.
That's interesting. Yeah, if it never was on the list, how did you came to this point as well as a question?
I think when I was just fascinated by the hospitality world, and I remember when I went to, I sort of wanted to join to experience the growth, and Nick said to me, "Well, we already have a finance director. We can't afford your salary." And so I said, "That's fine, half my salary, and we'll make up a title for me, and I'll just help you
to grow."
To grow. And I think within like 18 months, I'd worked on a project, and we did a 105 million high yield bond issue, which the company had not done before. And then I was able to go back and say, okay, I've demonstrated a bit of my value. Obviously, there was a big team that worked on that, but I've gone off on a tangent there. But it was more, learning was really the reason, and a fascination with hospitality.
I got it. So from your childhood, you were such an ambitious person that wanted to always create, to do your own business. And as you said, you mastered your control with your body, with your brain, with your business, and with your emotions. So how do you actually get up every day, and what would you recommend to people to do in order to be as disciplined as you are? What are your rituals?
My rituals? Well, I actually think it starts at the beginning of the year. I take 3 days out to plan my entire year ahead, and I go through this process of essentially it's split. Half of the time is spent on business, and I think the phrase working on your business rather than in your business. So I will pull apart every aspect of what I want to do for the year ahead and plan that. And then I'll do exactly the same for my personal life. And that's then something that I track and relook at every single quarter to see, am I going in the right direction? Do I need to adjust it? And so I think having those goals and those markers really helps. I think you can quite easily get lost with the chaos and excitement of life. There's always a surprise, and there's always chaos that happens. So to have something to come back to and go, well, what did I really want to achieve this year?
For sure, but did you create your own principle, or do you use any methodologies, of somebody that you know?
I've done some of the big sort of self-development things. I did something called Business Mastery with Tony Robbins out in Miami.
Are you? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, well, I went to my first one. I went to something called UPW.
What did you feel after, like when you met him, when you did all of these sessions? Something changed in you?
I think I was quite, in true British sort of cynical style. Someone had actually given me a ticket. It was this sort of great salesman that I sat next to at an awards ceremony, and he was immediately my best friend. And I was like, "You've done some serious sales training." And he said, "Well, I used to work for a guy called Tony Robbins for 7 years. You should come and experience it." So I was just given a ticket. I didn't know much about it, and I went. There were 12,000 people in this arena. Went to the first one I went to. And I walked in and there were people high-fiving and hugging each other. And then in the auditorium, half of the people are just dancing and this is 8 o'clock in the morning, just people just dancing in the aisles.
Why not?
And I thought, okay, this is not for me. And I sat awkwardly in my chair. And by day 2, I was up with everyone else, because the energy that you get from, I guess, having that long-term vision and pulling apart your life and setting those clear goals it just helps you get excited about the day. So you will have ups and downs throughout a year, and there's going to be days where you're less motivated, but
Yeah.
I think having a clear plan really helps.
That's, to be honest, I didn't expect it from you, because
Oh, really?
I can see you as more like a pragmatic person, I'm into Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
I'm reading his books, and I do believe that our thoughts influence in our dreams and actions, and everything starts from the head, to be honest.
For sure.
So that's interesting. It's insightful for me, and I think...
I have business mentors that I've been lucky enough to pick up along the way, which have been super helpful when you go through those challenging times. But also, I consistently pump my head full of I try and do one book of personal development and one book of pleasure.
Yeah.
And keep that churning. So I'm constantly learning. And
that's great. And who are your business coaches and mentors? Like, is it a couple of people or just one person? And do they work in corporate industry, or do they also from wellness and hospitality? How do you actually choose your expert mentors and also the partners in terms of the business?
It's super. I mean, my mentors it's just been people I've met along the way. Often not in the hospitality industry, but just people who've grown big businesses. So I mean, a good example is a guy called Warren Johnson, who started W Communications, very successful PR agency, and he's just been through the trenches of growing something from nothing to a very large business. And so to just sit in a room and have someone else's kind of independent advice on things is super helpful. But others, I mean, there's a huge range. I think I've definitely been quite interested now in the wellness side of things, and so because of ARC, and the usual names appear on that list of the Hubermans and which has just been fascinating to learn about more the
neurology kind of side as well. This is what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in nowadays, and actually I'm going to have a guest, a neuroscience coach for more than 20 years of experience. I believe that everything starts from our brain, from our body, and it's super important how we're going to feel ourselves, not just today, but in 10 years. But we already have to care about our mindset and body now in order to feel better.
For sure.
10 years, in 5 years, even tomorrow.
And even more immediately, I mean, growing, we've gone from, it was me and a laptop, to now there's over, let's say, 66 restaurants, 1,300 people or something. Along that route, I've been on the verge of bankruptcy multiple times along the way as you grow. Of course, early stage growth, there's always chaos. But when I've hit those really difficult periods, there was one time where I worked 7 days a week for 5 months, crazy hours every day. And I went, there's 2 routes you can do it. Either sort of destroys you physically, or I focused entirely on wellness, the food I was putting into my body. It became this, okay, I've got to get through this period. And so how do I get my mind to be at its most powerful so I don't make mistakes that could impact, not being able to pay 700-800 people.
You said that you was almost at the bankruptcy. Did I understand correct?
Yes.
How did you run through it?
Days of a startup in White Rabbit.
Yeah.
I mean, take COVID. I think I had, 35 restaurants going into that. And suddenly, I'd actually just come out of Business Mastery. And I was like, right, I'm going to create a £100 million business. And I was super kind of motivated purely about growth.
Yeah.
And a month later, I had zero turnover and hundreds of people to pay. And
that's painful.
I went, this is actually, I love the chaos. I mean, I didn't love it at the time, but that's when I went, right, this is what's in front of me. How do I plan out what we do for this? And
what did you do exactly? What was your steps?
Honestly, the first thing was getting all the senior team together to build a plan. And but the first meaningful thing I remember, we have a 10,000 square foot pasta factory, and there were a whole load of people before the government gave kind of handouts and furlough and all those kind of things.
Like grants and something like that. Yeah.
We set up a big charity piece where people could donate, and we would give free meals out to people. So it was just a crowdfunder, and we did tens of thousands of free meal kits for anyone who'd just been kind of made redundant. And actually it got our team, who were suddenly doing nothing, it gave them a purpose as well.
Yeah.
And it was like, look, this is optional. If people want to come to the production kitchen and build these, it gave people purpose and something exciting to do. So that was and I don't think I would have done that were it not for having come out of this experience in Miami of, just, you can't sit there and wallow in, oh, this is terrible.
Of course.
And complain. You've just got to
keep going.
Keep going.
Never give up. This is what I appreciate in people, and you are as disciplined person, right? Do you believe
Mostly.
this is... You are. Do you believe it's something that comes, as a set of rules that you just have to keep going, be consistent, or is it like the genetic lottery that's somebody just being born with that and that's it, Because for some people, it's very hard just to get up every morning, just to go to the shower. For them, it's a big achievement. So
I think... I was lucky. I mean, I don't know where the drive comes from a natural point of view. We didn't have much money growing up at all, and I think there was a part of me that I guess just wanted a certain level of security. I've got an interesting way around of getting that. If I've thought about this over years. There is a sort of singular moment that I think created a lot of my drive. And
what was that?
Well, my parents were going through some very difficult financial times. My dad had been made redundant, and he was always this very sort of strong-willed person. And there was a day when he was not in a position where he was able to pay the mortgage. And someone who didn't drink that much, but he was sitting in the garden with a bottle of whiskey, having a glass of whiskey, and he was, a desperate man at the time because he couldn't look after his family. And he said to me the immortal lines, "Whatever you do in life, don't try and be happy, try and make as much money as possible," which is terrible advice.
Terrible.
Terrible advice. Sorry?
Why so?
Well, of course, you've got to enjoy life, and you should be. Just making money is not the thing. But that moment for him, the being able to provide for people and security and things like that, that was, for his family, was so important. And after that, it was, I need to always be in a position where I can support myself and support my family.
Chris, that's very interesting moment because in the beginning of our podcast, you said that you are working so hard that sometimes you don't have time to enjoy the time with the friends or with somebody else. But seems like you're also working a lot. And the motto that Farza told you, like, you know,
But interestingly, I think...
replicates or reflects on you a bit. Don't you think so?
Oh, for sure. I mean, those things stick with you. But
Yeah.
I think that's why I went into the finance world, because at the time it was very, very secure. Once I'd got to a certain level, and actually there was a moment where due to age or they weren't able to secure their follow-on mortgage.
Yeah.
And there was a point at which I could say, don't worry, I can take over the mortgage. And after that, I'd sort of completed that circle.
Yeah.
And then I was able to go off and create my own thing.
It's a powerful story, to be honest. And yeah, sometimes our families are not able anymore, you know, to take care and following the regular, how to say, to follow the regular lifestyle. And I also had this moment in my life because my father was in jewelry business for 35 years. But then at one day, his company just bankrupted. And, you know, the life changed completely.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that the power is just to stay a good person and believing in your family and never give up, that's for sure.
And I think there's an acceptance then that it always is going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah.
If you're doing exciting things, there's going to be tough moments. And then it's that question of, you know, do you have the right support network and friends and genuine people around you to support you through those times?
That's true. But what if you would need to start everything from zero? What would you
I'm sure I will at some point. We'll see.
Life is such a journey.
Yeah.
What would you suggest those people who are feeling lost or overwhelmed or, you know, don't know where to start?
So you've got to really be passionate about the thing you want to create. I think there's what's that line of, you know, starting a company is on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss, chewing glass. Like you go through a lot of rough stuff. So you've got to really enjoy what you're creating.
Was it worth it, Chris?
100%. I love what I do. At the same time, I would not wish on my worst enemies.
Really?
Yeah. Not sure I have worst enemies, but yeah. All I would say, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
The lifestyle, but I'm so lucky that I get to do it. And people are, you know, I get to go on a trip and find a weird sauna party and go, I'm going to build one of these in London. Like I ignored your question about the advice to people.
Yeah,
I think
sorry.
Find that thing that really interests you and just go deep. And there's communities of people around that just put yourself around those people. You don't need to know exactly where you're going, but there are so many people you can reach out to and just ask questions and who'll speak to you and give you advice. Most of the time, the excuse for not doing it is, oh, well, I work all day and I don't have time to create something. I worked at Soho House. I had more than just a day job. Like it was an intense. I just knew I was fascinated by hospitality. And so on the side of my day job, I would just help people. My first piece was in exchange for a few burgers. I helped the guys at Meat Liquor raise some money, which was a burger restaurant at the time.
Yes, I've heard about this.
And I didn't charge them anything. I got a few free burgers and I got to skip the queue into their burger restaurant. And then they introduced me to a couple of other people and I helped them out for free. And along the way, all I was doing was learning stories or gaining stories and learning about the industry, up until one day someone came to me and I was so busy, I said, look, I'm going to have to charge you for this. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I got paid for doing something on the side. Ultimately, just constantly saying yes to things and building these stories, when I did go out and say I want to raise money for my own projects,
Yeah.
I had enough experience that I was credible, and I'd done enough things that it made the opportunity real. So the advice would be just go out there and learn and collect stories, because that one opportunity will come along.
Yeah.
That if you've done all of that, it'll happen.
So from our conversation, I know that a lot of people want to really combine what they love to do and what they should do, right? So you said that all this hustle that you had through the years, it's paid back to you completely. You wouldn't regret that you went out from finance into wellness and everything.
Absolutely not. I think I'm happy and excited about the things that we're doing, and
Yeah.
so I wouldn't regret any of the decisions, even some of the really, really rough days.
If you would stay in finance, for example, would earn more today than you earn right now?
At a base level, yes. I think on paper I wouldn't be anywhere near it.
Okay.
So it's that big play of, when I sell the company,
Yeah.
that's the risk you're taking, right? Okay, I could have been a partner at a private equity firm and getting paid a nice big base salary. I went for years at White Rabbit, paying myself not a lot at all. And in some of those rough days, I wouldn't pay myself for like 6 months, because I was just trying to keep the business going. But on paper now, I would be worth a lot more than what I probably would have been in finance. But I think even if I stayed in finance, I would have set up my own thing.
Okay, so there is only one way. And,
There was only one way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm with you, great answers, but secretly I think everybody wants to know, how much do you earn right now per month?
I don't do it for the money. I do it for the love. And
Such a great answer.
I get a few free bowls of pasta, and I'm happy with that.
I'm joking. I don't need the numbers. I just wanted to know, like, if all this was worth it, what you're doing right now. And what are your guilty pleasures?
You can invite me back on when I've sold the business, and I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you for that. And what are your guilty pleasures? What do you like to spend money for?
Sure. And now I'm trying to buy a new house, and so I'm going to be incredibly poor in about a month's time. So all of my guilty pleasures have stopped. But no, ultimately it's always been traveling, eating, drinking, and experiences. Because that for me is inspiration.
Yeah.
That's I'm not doing anything too clever here. I travel around the world, and I get really excited by different cuisines or different experiences, and help those sort of build into what I'm doing and what I'm building here in the UK and further afield.
Sounds good. And Chris, in terms of the relations, would you rather prefer the woman who is successful in her career, or imagine the woman who is traveling, spending, and shopping? I don't know, but she's incredibly stunning and beautiful. What would it be that deal?
Can you have both?
changer?
Maybe that's why I'm still single. I've always been way more attracted to people who are creating and building their own thing. Also because I think I've had more successful relationships with people like that, because you're more aligned on and understand each other on the journey that you're on. Yeah, I think that's always been more attractive to me, is people who have a passion or an excitement to build something.
Okay, sounds good.
Because then you can cheerlead each other along the way.
Yeah, I think it should be complementary, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it might become too boring. But yeah, I have a question to you. When and where did you feel yourself alone?
There was, I think that day where I spoke about, there was this one period where I was 10 days away from not being able to pay 700 people. And obviously you can't tell people across the company that that's happening. This was a good few years ago now. And only 2 people in the whole business knew how serious it was. And those final days, that was a lonely time for sure. And I remember when I finally closed the deal to save everything.
Yeah.
And I went back to our office and I sat in my chair and kind of looked out over these people who would get paid at the end of the month. And you sit there and go, God, no one will ever know how close we came to this all going wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
The backstage of the real life, basically.
exactly.
What do you think? What unites successful people?
I think being able to deal with those, with the constant chaos and disasters, and to keep going through it. Persistence is everything. And if it, as the phrase goes, if it is easy, you're not going fast enough.
Good one. Quick questions that I'm really interested to know about our community. How did you build it? How long it took? Did you had any obstacles that it was very hard to overcome? And what is next? What is there?
I think I was working on it for about a year and a half when I first got excited by this as an idea. There were so many challenges. Also, a totally new industry for me. So I had to learn a lot about the wellness world. Although it has a lot of similarities to hospitality. You're there to give people an experience and feel seen, and yeah, just a huge amount of learning to go through. What's next? I'm fascinated by the growth in wellness at the moment.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There was a stat the other day that in the Times that 43% of 18 to 34-year-olds no longer drink. And I was then with the owners of Third Space, and they were saying people under 30 are coming twice a day to work out. Like this interest in longevity and looking after yourself it's clear and very real. Alongside this sort of loneliness epidemic that the world's, we're all
Increasing as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
So I'd love to do more in wellness, but I'm still at the early stages of that.
What would you invest next, or what would you never invest?
I think that the next one will be more wellness, but we're still opening restaurants. I've still got quite a few hotel projects. Never invest. I almost broke this rule and then I didn't. In the hospitality world, my rule was never burgers, pizza, or chicken concepts, just because there's so many people doing it well already. Why do you need any more? So I don't know. Never say never. But
never say never.
Only invest if you can do it much better than someone else, because you've got to give people a really good reason to move across from what they're currently experiencing to your piece.
Chris, you don't eat gluten, you don't drink alcohol, you don't have bad habits. What is the concept behind of this, or what made you quit?
I do drink a little bit, far less than I used to, but I do think you need balance. You need health and hedonism are not mutually exclusive. It's okay to have a bit of both in your life.
Agree.
But gluten and dairy, that was actually my body decided it no longer liked it that much, but I have felt so much lighter and just physically more able to put myself through what I put myself in. Energetic, exactly.
You know, last time we spoke, after a while, I also stopped to eat gluten.
Oh, okay.
I don't eat gluten right now. It's
Right.
been more than 3
How do you feel?
I feel lighter.
Yeah.
I feel more energetic. I feel like, okay, actually, I don't need it. I bought like the pasta without gluten. I bought all the products without gluten, and it's amazing. And
It is.
yeah, it helps.
What's amazing is later on, if you try in maybe a few more weeks' time,
Yeah.
try and have a slice of pizza or something like that.
Yeah.
And you
To feel the difference, right?
You will feel how sluggish you are after that, and you suddenly go, "Well, how was I poisoning my body with this stuff?"
Yeah.
Over? Now,
Yeah.
look, I still have a sweet tooth. I think you need to enjoy life as well, right? But
That's right.
you've also got to look after your body.
Yeah. What is your purpose of life?
To grow and serve. There you go. I actually have a solid answer to that because that is part of my planning for the year ahead. I try and work out what are the things that I want to do. And
It's a mission, right, as well?
yeah, a company needs a mission. I also think a person should have a mission. And for me, what that means is growth is progress is happiness. Like forward momentum, creating, doing things, building things. That for me is happiness. And to serve in the same way, to look after people, and I take a huge amount of pride in the fact that I'm not just growing for growth's sake or just to make money. You create this vacuum of opportunity for the people who come on this journey with you. And so, the more people we can help build careers, opportunities for them, for their families, that's a super inspiring and an amazing position I can be in today.
Got it, Chris. And tell me, do you have a soulmate in your life?
No.
How would you define it?
I have a really good collection of very close sort of friends who I've known over many, many years. None in the same industry, do completely different things, known each other since kids. That for me is my kind of, I'd say, closest support.
Got it. Thank you. And what was the one book that changed your life?
The one I would recommend highly and has been a hugely positive is Rick Rubin, the music producer. He wrote a book called The Creative Act. It's just this fascinating exploration of creativity and how you take an idea and turn it into reality.
Thank you for your recommendation. When you die, Chris, what you want to be remembered for?
I don't really I've never had this interest in legacy. I want to have, I said, done some good things, helped, grown and served, but I actually don't have an answer for that because it's never been, when I'm dead, I'm dead.
You created already a lot. I mean, maybe I can help you. You created like 66 restaurants around the globe, our community, and I'm sure you're not gonna stop with just on that. Seems like you're having your goals, you're having your mission, and I have a feeling that there is a lot to create.
Sure, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm still excited to create and grow things.
If this chapter of your life would have a title, how that would go? How that would be called?
What would it be called?
Yes.
This chapter. Now, I don't know I'm in a phase of, I guess, solidifying the process. the first 5 years was just dragging something into existence of White Rabbit, which is the vehicle. Then there was COVID and chaos and all those kind of things. And now I'm like, what we've built works. And the incubator model, and I think the people that I've got around me, it's a really great team doing really exciting things. And so for me, it's now just letting that run.
Got it. Chris, what would you want to wish our followers and the people who are watching right now, and how you hope them to feel watching this episode?
I would just encourage people probably to take that time at the start of the year. If you can, sit on a beach somewhere or sit in a park. One piece of paper for your life, your personal life, one piece of paper for your business life, and just explore a plan for the year ahead, and just take it out of the drawer once every quarter. And it changes over time, but I think it's quite a powerful piece to just take that time to really think about what you want from the year ahead.
That's a good one. So I would say it's never too late. So if you are still haven't done it, you can take the 2 papers right now and plan your life. And it's such a great advice to the people who are watching right now this episode. Thank you for that. And last but not least, I would like to ask you, Chris, if we can provide the gift to our guests and let them try the ARC community for the ones who haven't been there yet. Maybe we can provide them 3 entrants.
Sure. So
shall we do it?
Let's do it. So, well, for the best comment, and if they tag ARC community on Instagram, comment on your video, and for the best 3, we'll give them access to come and try the ARC experience. Sounds good. Which is it's a special journey to go on.
It is such a special journey. I never have experienced this before I tried the ARC community. So please write your comments below. Subscribe on Instagram for our community, subscribe for this channel, and we're gonna choose with Chris 3 winners who will have the opportunity to come to ARC and to recharge themselves and to experience the uniqueness of this place. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been raw, deep, and honest.